I'm Dilhan, and I'm the co-founder of Urban Plant Growers. I'm really excited to talk to you all today about how we set up our business using a lot of logical processes and off-the-shelf software, which helped us grow Urban Plant Growers while my co-founder and I were both working full-time jobs. So to begin with, I'll provide you with a little bit of background on who Urban Plant Growers are and what we do. So we started with this mission of enabling everyday people to grow their own food easily and in their own home. The initial problem statement that we came across was that people would buy food like this from supermarkets, which generally had a shelf life of about 3 days. You'd put it in your fridge, eat half of it, and the rest would wilt and die, and then you'd just be left with a piece of plastic and some compost. Alternatively, you could go to Bunnings and buy something like this, which might have a shelf life of 2 weeks, and it could get you a little bit further, but soon enough it would die because the soil is completely nutrient deficient. And the other converging problem was that a lot of people were moving into dark apartments, which were facing south and didn't have access to much natural sunlight. So we needed to provide a way for people to grow their own food in a low maintenance way in their own home. The solution was through our hydroponic smart gardens. It's a range of products which use LED grow lights and hydroponic nutrients to grow plants much quicker with 90% less water consumption, 30% less space, and significantly less time than conventional agriculture. We founded this while my co-founder and I were still in uni. So I was in my final year and my co-founder Peter was also in his final year. This essentially meant that we were incredibly time poor. We were both doing theses and we inevitably had to figure out ways of doing things quicker or without much of our own time. Otherwise, we just wouldn't have been able to manage everything. Similarly, as we were growing the business, we're a stock-intensive company. We have all these products around me that you can see. We had to fund that. And as uni students, we didn't have much money at the time. So when we got the offer for our grad jobs, we took these grad jobs and we started working full-time. That kind of made the effect of having to run a side business while working a full-time job even more difficult. And we were really pressed for time all the time, which forced us to continue investing into ways of improving process efficiencies. So we did that full-time job for a while, and then we worked on some efficient solutions, as I'll discuss soon, until eventually we started moving part-time. So I'm part-time. I do 2 days a week on Urban Plant Growers, and my co-founder is still in his full-time job. And we've done this for over 2 years now, and our business has grown into a large successful company with about 7 employees right now. So I'll just go through some of the ideology behind why I think it's really important to set up processes this way. And I'll start with something that I call the entrepreneurial halo effect, which is basically we like to put these halos around an individual entrepreneur who pioneers and creates great inventions. We don't really look at all the work that goes on behind that. So I guess if you look at someone like Steve Jobs and the iPhone, you might say, wow, that's incredibly entrepreneurial. They've done an incredible job, which they have. But a lot of the innovations from that came from previous development. So the touchscreen from University of Kentucky / the University of Delaware, who were receiving government funding to produce that. GPS, US Department of Defense innovation. And of course, the internet, which was developed by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. These were all government innovations which the private sector worked on for a long time. So I'm here to argue that Urban Plant Growers is wholly dependent on the innovation of pre-existing companies, and I'm here to show how we leverage that to suit our needs and improve our business processes. So just going quickly through some innovations that we are dependent on, because I feel this is an exercise in understanding why it's so important to be comfortable relying on other software and other processes. You've got hydroponics, which was developed by NASA. You've got the internet, manufacturing processes, Shopify and a range of other apps, Australia Post, other suppliers, and Microsoft, just to name a few. the whole ideology behind what I'm about to explain is that you shouldn't necessarily build something that doesn't need to be built or is already existing. And by that, I mean finding out what is your core business. So when you figure out what your core business is, you should do everything in your power to develop that. And things that do not fall under that category of your core business should be minimized in terms of the amount of time you spend on it. Or alternatively, you should outsource that or just find a better way to not have to worry about it at that time. Similarly, you have to ask yourself, what is not your core business? And I feel a lot of companies expanding definitely get to a stage where they feel capable of doing anything and fall into a trap of taking on every single task for themselves and turning their business into something that it's not necessarily adding to their core value. So in the case of urban plant growers, I would say we have a couple of things that are our core business. So you've got helping people grow their own food, logistics, customer service, providing information on how hydroponics works, branding, and providing quality products. Things that aren't our core business include things like developing software and accounting. I can't tell you how many times we've, like my co-founder and I, we have engineering backgrounds, and I can't tell you how many times we've looked at a problem and been like, let's make some software to fix that. But I don't think that is necessarily the fix for everything. So just running through a few apps that we use to help us do our job. Of course, our website is an e-commerce store, and we use Shopify to power that. So one of them is Remaze. This one we use for, this one manages subscriptions. So typically we have a large number of customers applying for subscriptions because we have a product which needs to be fed. So rather than tracking this manually in a spreadsheet or through a CRM, we've just got an app that costs $10 per week, and it enables us to do everything completely through there. We don't have to touch that or worry about it at all. It takes away hours of potential human work and just offloads it all to that. Another one that we might use is Ecoma, which manages our rewards programs. So we pay a small amount, and it basically means we have a customer loyalty program. Klaviyo is an email remarketing software. It costs a fair bit, but the price scales with the size of your business. And this is incredible. Like I think businesses are all about creating really good processes that make sense. And through Klaviyo, you can set up a series of automations which are much more complex than what you might get in MailChimp. And these automations are something that once they're set, you can just scale your business with, just set and forget essentially. I guess an example for e-commerce would be abandoned cart automations, nurture emails to remind people that you've got interesting products, follow-ups on people who were considering buying a certain product from you and that sort of thing. In addition to this, we have things like Pagefly. This is also very cheap, and it saves you a fortune. So with Shopify specifically, most of the coding is liquid. And rather than paying a web developer to do this, we've just got this really simple software which uses drag and drop technology to essentially let our designer go free and do this without the need for another person. So it definitely earns its money back. And then finally, Remaze, which is the customer portal that we use, which is very central to all of our operations. This is into Facebook, Instagram, Shopify, emails, anything you can think of, even a phone number that we've got set up. Going into a bit more detail on our customer service side of things, I think it's important to understand how you can improve a service. So with customer service, our goal is to reduce the number of incoming queries by answering questions before they are asked, um, answering as many questions per hour, maximizing the quality of customer service, and turning customer service into a revenue generating division. So it's really changing the mindset from customer service being something that is a drain on your business to something that is core and actually helpful. So just going through the timeline of what we've done with customer service. Initially, we would get these in just through emails, and my co-founder and I would just reply to these. Eventually, by mid-August, it just became too much, and we'd spend way too much time on this. We couldn't do it and still grow the business, so we hired someone while at an early point, before we probably had to hire that person, but early enough so that we could train them up to be ready for peak season, which was about Christmas. And then we started training them up and learning. We got a portal called Remaze, which, as I mentioned, integrates all of our different customer service factions. We kept operating on that for a while until March 2020, which is when we really started to optimize. We noticed that we were getting a significant amount of queries, and we had to figure out a better way to run this because it was taking way too much time, and the quality of service wasn't good enough. Right up into April, where we've started using the optimization process really as a core piece to our customer service offering, where we get some really good data analytics on what we're doing and use that to transform the business. So now we've just got these fortnightly reports that are based off that, and we use that to continually optimize customer service. So these are some Power BI graphs that we would typically make. In the third column on the top graph, we started getting a significant number of incoming customer queries in March, at which point we realized we have to do this more efficiently. And then those queries kept increasing until May, when we started this exact report. And what we basically did was just tag everything, analyze everything, break it down into segments. On the right, you can see that we've got a pie graph of all the different types of products which we're getting queries about. And obviously you can see that the biggest one is the orange one, the Eco Kitchen. So after that, we would go into the Eco Kitchen tags and find out why there are so many queries. Once we find out why there are so many queries, we can start categorizing them even further, and you often start seeing trends. So what are things commonly asked? Why do they have so many queries about that product? At that point, you start setting up templates and automations and workflows and FAQs, all of which help people answer. Sorry, bit of a skip there. All of which help us answer questions people have the send the query towards us. So this is just an example of if you were to set up a lot of different FAQs and materials that a customer service person could use. If they get a typical problem, they could either just use a template that already exists, direct someone to an FAQ, or maybe just give them a call. So it's massively reducing the amount of time it takes one person to answer a query. Similarly, there is a low-tech solution to everything. One problem that we had was communication between our warehouse team, our customer service team, and our management. We had a lot of orders which were getting backlogged because we might be out of stock for something like seeds. And it was just really holding up the warehouse. So we needed to figure out a really simple way to manage that. I think for a week or so into having the warehouse, we were using emails and just sending things back and forth. But it would just get very confusing. There would be no real structured way to maintain traceability of all the different queries that we had running. But since then, we've come up with a very low-tech solution, which is your go-to, Excel. If you've ever got something that you need multiple teams to work across and you don't want to invest in creating something specifically for it, Excel is just the way to go. Have a shared document online that everyone can constantly update. The way we use this is if there's a warehouse issue, the warehouse team would upload it onto here. the customer service team would get in contact with the customer. They'd talk about it in detail, find out the action that the warehouse team needs to do to complete it, and then add in a resolution and finish that up, or vice versa if the query comes from the customer team before the warehouse team. So final point on hiring is to hire people before you need them, create processes as soon as possible, and get people trained so that they can do the job before you need them to, before it's crunch time. Some quick typical time wasters: building an app to do something that a spreadsheet could have done, trying to reinvent existing software to get marginal benefits, doing everything in-house, and not giving away responsibility to employees early enough. Thank you so much for listening to my little TED Talk, Spark Talk. I appreciate it. Please let me know if you have any questions.